Welcome to a very special milestone episode of the Publishing Performance Show. Now, last week, I actually recorded the 100th episode, and it kind of went by without me noticing. And so I thought, well, I'd do something special for the 105th episode, which is happening this week, because we've already passed the 100th, and it's too late for me to do anything about it. But if you haven't met me before, I'm Teddy Smith, and it's been such a great journey. It started just over a year ago, publishing these podcast episodes all about self-publishing. Now, from our very first episode to today, we've explored every single corner of the self-publishing world. I've had some amazing episodes with Kevin J. Henderson, Craig Martell, Joanna Penn, some unbelievable guests. So it's been a really good journey. And thank you so much for coming along with me along the way. Now, after this such incredible milestone, I thought I would try and organize the episodes a little bit better. So I thought I would create something called the Publishing Performance Starter Packs. Now, if you want to go to my website, teddyagsmith.com, where you can see more information about these starter packs, these are essentially curated lists of podcast episodes. So if you're ever stuck on a particular thing, like if you're a bit stuck on writing, you can go to one of the writing episodes. Or if you're a bit stuck on advertising, you can go to one of the advertising episodes. And it can help you out along the way, make it much easier to find the exact content you need when you need it. So whether you're looking to go a bit more deep into some of the marketing strategies or hear a bit more of a deep dive into your favorite author or even learn about one of the new tools, the starter packs will help you get to exactly where you want to at exactly the right time. So there's a bit more about it at the end of the show, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Publishing Performance Show. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Michael Ronn, who is a best-selling author. So thank you for joining us, Michael.
Hey Teddy, great to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, one of the main things that I've learned about you in all of the things I've read and from our conversations is you've written 70 books or over 70 books whilst balancing a full-time job. You've got a family. You've got quite a senior position in a corporate job. What inspired you to pursue such a prolific writing path?
Yeah, this is a calling for me. Let's put it that way. So, well, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me. And I jumped into writing because I had a near-death experience in 2012. I was working a corporate job, and it was a terrible corporate job at the time. And went on a nice dinner with my wife, and fell ill with what I thought was food poisoning, and didn't leave the hospital for a month. And
oh wow,
was pretty close to leaving this earth. And so at that time, I had wanted to be a writer, but I wasn't really doing it. I mean, I was trying to shop some manuscripts out. I was writing some poetry and some short stories and things like that. But it wasn't happening, and the job wasn't working very well, and student loans were half my paycheck. And I kind of realized on that hospital bed, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I need to figure this out. And so I had some visions and hallucinations and whatever you want to call them. And I saw myself being a successful writer. And I swore on that hospital bed that I would jump into writing and become a writer no matter what. And nothing would stop me. And yeah, here I am. I need to update my bio though, because I've actually just published over 100 books.
Oh, wow.
So
Christ.
Yeah, shame on me for that. But so that's my Cliff Notes executive summary of why I do this. And I for me, it's a calling. Like I enjoy the money. I enjoy the, going around and talking to people on podcasts and stuff like that. But really, for me, writing is just something that I've been called to do. And I want to help other people. I want to entertain other people. And so I've found a way to do that while managing a job, having a writing career, having a family. And it just comes naturally to me. And I don't really think too much about the interplay of all those things.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was speaking to Joanna Penn yesterday for this podcast, and we were talking about what success meant. And one thing you just mentioned was you saw yourself being a successful writer. So in your head, what did being a successful writer look like?
I didn't really know at that time. At the time, I saw myself with a book. Like I saw myself holding a book and like having like a birthday cake under me because that's such a huge accomplishment. But other than that, I didn't really know. I guess I should say when I published my first book, I thought it was going to make me a millionaire. I literally, I got married the weekend before and I published the book, walked out the door to my honeymoon, and I literally thought I was going to come back a millionaire because it was during the Kindle Gold Rush. So This was when, people would just, they would just throw up public domain books or write books that were poorly edited, and they'd just make thousands and thousands of dollars, And I thought, okay, well, clearly that's going to happen to me. Clearly that did not happen to me. did not become a millionaire. So I guess as the last 15 years have transpired, what success really looks like to me is being able to use the gifts that I've been given to touch people across the world, whatever that looks like. And often as a writer, you don't know how your books are going to touch other people. You know, we're fortunate sometimes when people reach out and send fan mail and say the, really nice things, but you don't really know. And so I've just tried to use my gifts to help other writers become better versions of themselves. And I think that's my legacy. I want the money. That's great. And, I want to be able to quit my job and do all that fun stuff. But really, I think that as a writer, I'm building something that's bigger than myself. Yeah. And being able to touch people is really important.
Yeah, for sure. Now, obviously, you've written across lots of different genres, and you mentioned just now you want to entertain people and to reach out to them in many different ways. Did you have a particular genre that you wanted to focus on at first, or were you just, I want to be a successful writer, let's see where this path goes?
I've always been a science fiction and fantasy guy. Yeah. So that's what I read growing up, and so that's what I gravitated toward. Although in science fiction and fantasy, I like to joke that I kind of took the scenic route. I did a little bit of sci-fi, did a little bit of fantasy, then I did a little bit more fantasy, but I did a lot of different subgenres. But I would say right now, fantasy is my core genre, and I will be branching out into romantic fantasy as well.
Okay. Wow. How's that looking?
I have no idea yet. I've had this idea in my head for a long time, and I wasn't quite sure how to market it. Yeah. And with the rise of romantasy, I actually found out this is actually a romantasy idea. So I'm doing a lot of market research right now. I'm talking to a lot of my romance author friends and just trying to figure out where it's going to fit. But yeah, that's kind of my long-term plans, but mainly fantasy and probably elements of romance as well.
Lovely. Now, as you mentioned, you've got over 100 books, and one of the main things, I think you've got a book called about being a prolific writer called Be a Writing Machine. And you've even got the second part to that, which came out relatively recently as well. So let's go through that a little bit, because you've got 100 books and you manage all these things. How do you manage to manage all your time to make sure you're getting those books written?
Yeah, time management is critical. And I like to say that there are 3 ways you can manage your time. There are only 3 ways. You can add time, you can edit time, and you can delete time. Adding time, what that looks like is I wake up at 5:30 in the morning every day. So I add, normally instead of 7:30, I wake up at 5:30. So I add 2 hours to my day, and that's when my family is asleep, and I can get a lot done because the house is quiet. Right? So that's what adding time looks like to your calendar. You can also edit your time. So instead of doom scrolling on Facebook or Instagram for 15 minutes, write some words, right? And so I've learned how to write on my phone. That's another thing that I talk about in Be a Writing Machine. So instead of being on Facebook or social media or doing something that isn't productive, I turn that non-productive time into something productive. And even if it's only 100 words or 150 words, those little sessions add up over time. The third thing you can do with time is delete time. So when I became a writer, I used to be a musician as well. And it was a competing hobby. So I would write music and then I would write stories. Well, I sold all my instruments in order to fund my first book. So I gave up that hobby. And so those hours I was spending playing music and also playing video games, I stopped doing those things and devoted that time toward writing to clarify my focus. So if you practice those 3 things with time management, that will help you get some radical clarity on what you want to focus on.
Wow. So you using those small pockets of time during the day, especially, so the editing time part, and you just write on your phone, what tools do you use to try and make sure that writing is good and not just like text message, autocorrect, that sort of thing?
Oh, sure. So I for a long time, I used the Scrivener app on iOS. It's like $20. And yeah, you have to retrain your brain to be able to pick up where you left off on your desktop version. And 100 words here, 100 words there, it's all great. But at the end of the day, you just got to remember, it's all going to be edited just the same. So it's not like you're typing in words that are just going to instantly go to publication, and readers are going to read it and say, oh my God, this reads like a text message. You're going to go back and you're going to edit everything, and then you're going to use an editor. And, I have a pretty sophisticated editing chain that I use, that uses a little bit of artificial intelligence to help me catch typos at a better level, Grammarly, Pro Writing Aid, all that good stuff. And then, just good quality editing. And readers don't know the difference at the end of the day.
Yeah, of course. I'm just imagining you putting lots of like lols in and putting the word you just spelt as the letter U and things like that.
Oh yeah, lots of emojis too.
Yeah, lots of emojis. So when you're using Scrivener, is it easy to sort of sync it between what's going on in the phone and what's going on your computer? Is that very straightforward?
Yeah, when Scrivener wants to behave. I used Scrivener for a long time. I've switched over to Microsoft Word just mainly because there's a lot of reasons for doing so that are probably too technical for this podcast, but Microsoft Word is the same thing. They essentially, they sync between your device so that you can write essentially on any device. Sadly, Scrivener's not available for Android right now, but that's another reason I switched over to Word, just to enjoy a little bit more universality.
Yeah, nice. Now, when you're working on all of these different projects, it sounds like you've got maybe multiple things going on at one time. And in your book, one of the strategies you talked about is called the power of switching. So could you tell me a bit about the power of switching and how you can switch between different projects, especially to avoid getting completely burned out at the same time?
Yeah, there are some people who are very good at just focusing on one thing. And I happen to be one of those people, but I do have multiple projects that I like to work on at the same time sometimes. And so the way it works, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. And the beautiful thing about it is that you can improv, right? So let's say you're working on a novel and then you're working on a short story, right? Take your novel as far as you can take it until you start to get a little bit of writer's block. Then switch over to the short story. Take that as far as you can take it before you get a little bit of writer's block, and switch between the two. And what ends up happening is when you reach that point in the novel where you're not quite sure what's going to happen, the short story could inform what should happen in the novel. And you also come to that short story with a little bit more energy because it's something different. And there is something to be said about starting energy. So that activation energy. When you start something, you have a lot more energy. When you pick something up after not having worked on it for a while, you get a little bit of an energy boost as well. And so that's one way that you can do it. But you can, this could also look like writing a novel and then switching over to a short story, finishing the short story, writing a novel, right? So there's lots of different ways you can do it. I just encourage people to find the thing that works best for them. But the key is to make sure that you don't end up with a lot of different projects floating around. You do have to, at some point, focus. And a lot of people ask me, well, what project do I pick? Because I'm passionate about both of them. Which one do I pick? And I always tell people to pick the project that makes you jump out of bed in the morning. And if both projects make you jump out of bed, then pick the project that makes you jump out of bed the fastest.
It's a bit like that. Have you read the book Eat the Frog? And it's like, the first thing you got to do is eat a frog. And if you've got two frogs that need eating, eat the ugliest one first.
Exactly.
So, it sounds like exactly that topic. How do you manage your focus when you're having all of these different projects in one go? Do you have any ways or techniques you use to try and keep yourself focused if you have got these 2 or 3 projects running at the same time?
I think the most important thing to do is to focus on what you shouldn't be doing. So there's a lot of things. As writers, there's a 10 kajillion different things we could be doing right this very moment, Teddy. Right. So like I could be writing a novel. I could also be fixing that problem on my website. I could be figuring out how to get my books into a new distribution platform, and I could be doing some marketing. I mean, you name it. We wear all the hats, and we have to wear all the hats at the same time. And what I have learned is there are just some hats that I don't have to wear right now. And so figure out what you don't want to do. That will help you figure out what you should be doing.
AI is changing the game of business. Will you be on the winning team? I'm Jordan Wilson, the host of the Everyday AI podcast, and your coach to help you learn the X's and O's of AI. Artificial intelligence isn't just a new player in the game, it's a new sport altogether. So if you don't quickly put AI into play, your competitors will run up the score. I've spent my whole life building winning teams, from coaching basketball to working with big players like Nike and Jordan Brand. My next move? Helping you win with Everyday AI. Listen wherever you get your podcasts or on everydayaipodcast.com. Let's tap into AI together and put points on the board.
Okay, that's interesting. So could you give me an example of one of the things that you either outsource or you don't do, so because you don't want to focus on it?
Yeah. So one of the things that I focus on, so like with newsletters, for example, I do a monthly newsletter, right? But I just do it monthly. So I don't, a lot of people do weekly newsletters and all that. No, I'm just choosing to do it monthly because that's all I can manage. So by not doing it weekly, that gives me more time to focus on the writing. There are also like social media tasks and things that I've outsourced in the past that are helpful, because my time is my time is valuable, and it's sometimes difficult for me to do a lot of different things. And so I haven't been afraid to hire assistants in the past when I need it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Do you still hire assistants now for things like social media?
Yeah, it's seasonally when I need it.
Yeah.
If I've got a book launch or something coming up.
Yeah, I've basically constantly got a virtual assistant running to help me get those tasks out, because I really don't like doing the social media part. So it really does help me to push through that idea of like even getting started with that sort of project, because it's like it's just so much work sometimes.
Exactly. And now that we have, tools like ChatGPT and Claude, things like copywriting are a lot easier than they used to be. So, I mean, I used to spend hours focused on copywriting and writing, details for like Kickstarters or, just little marketing campaigns that I would do. And now I can send a first draft through ChatGPT and I can get something that's probably better than I would have done myself. Right. And so that's another way. Okay, well, yes, you have to do it, but you can spend a lot less time doing it as well.
Yeah, definitely. Now, one of the concepts also you talk about in your book is visualizing yourself untangling the problem. And I love this because even just talking about visualizing yourself untangling a problem, it brought like quite a visual, it was quite a visual way of describing that problem that you're having in the first place. So tell me about how you use that visualization to get you through things like writing blocks or problems you're having with your productivity.
I've always believed that if you can visualize a problem, you can solve it. So writing is very, sometimes it can be ethereal and mystical, and we keep all these ideas in our head. But if you can visualize yourself untangling the problem, like whatever issue the character is dealing with, just visualize yourself like the world of your book is like a little snow globe and you're manipulating it. You're rearranging things as the confetti is flying all over the place. I find it helps. And I like to do it when I'm in the shower, like to do it when I'm falling asleep, because those tend to be times when your brain is a little bit more flexible and ideas come to you a little bit faster. And yeah, I find that thinking about things can really just help you. And so when I'm stuck on something, I'll just go take a walk. I'll take a walk around the block, or I'll take my dog a couple of blocks further than I normally would take her and just think about the problem. And one of the things I like to do to try to prevent myself from overthinking, because that is an occupational hazard for us writers, is I will say, okay, I'm going to go walk my dog. I'm going to visualize this problem. I'm going to untangle it. And by the time I get home, it will be solved. And when I get home, I'm going to put my dog away or let her do what she wants to do. And then I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write at the computer. That sounded a little weird. I'm going to put my dog away. No, I'm just going to let her run around, do what she wants to do. But I'll sit down and I'll be back to the races. Okay. And that works really well. Another thing I like to do when visualizing a problem is sometimes I'll listen to a podcast, or I'll listen to a random YouTube video while I'm walking. And I will say to myself, the answer to what I'm looking for will be in the next piece of audio that I listen to. So whether it be an audiobook or a podcast. And what often happens is I'll hear something, like somebody will say just one little quote or one little word sometimes. And it's like, oh, that's what I need to do in my book. Or, that's an interesting story about that carpenter. What if the next character that my hero encounters is a carpenter? right? And so then you allow life to inform your book, because that's really what we're doing as writers. We're just taking life and we're putting it on the page. And so those things, combined with visualizing your story and untangling it, can really help you get over writer's block and give you some good inspiration.
Yeah, definitely. Now, when you've got all these different characters and you're trying to visualize their problems and you're trying to get them unstuck, do you have a way of keeping all that stuff organized that makes you more productive in writing the following bit of writing you're going to do?
I'll make a confession. I am a pantser. And I recognize that term doesn't quite mean the same thing across the pond. So I write by the seat of my trousers. Yeah. I'm a trouserer. Let's put it that way. I'm a trouserer. I got to know my audience here. So I don't know what's going to happen when I write a story, but as I write the story, I actually outline. So it kind of sounds counterintuitive. Wait a minute, Michael, you said you just write without an outline, and then you said you outline. What is this sorcery? So when you write, essentially you document what you do as you write. So I have no idea how this book is going to start. I write chapter 1, then I go back and I write down what happened in chapter 1. And I like to keep everything in a Microsoft Excel sheet. Some people like Plotter. There's lots of different tools out there to help you with this, but then that becomes my Bible. So when I get into chapter 30 and I need to remember, okay, this character hasn't appeared for 10 chapters. What was the last thing they were doing? What were they wearing? Then I just go back to the Bible, and the Bible tells me everything I need to know. Now, the great thing too is that I've been experimenting with is you can use tools like Google Notebook, and you can ask it questions. So using the power of AI, you can say, when was the last time this character appeared? And that starts becoming really helpful when you have a long series, or when you maybe take a break in the middle of a book and then don't come back for a few months. So those are just a couple of tools that you can use to help you. But how I keep everything straight is I document everything as I go. And that helps me tremendously.
I love this idea of outlining as you go along. That's incredible. So when you sit down to write a book, do you generally have no idea where it's going to go, or have you always got some kind of inkling?
Most of the time I have zero idea. I usually know the main character, like in the setting, and what the first issue is. So hero in a setting with a problem. I know that because got to know that to start the book. And then I might see a few highlights. Like I like to joke, okay, there's going to be a bridge that blows up at the climax of the book or something like that. But even that, you never know, because sometimes the book just takes you down different directions and the characters say different things that you wouldn't expect. So yeah, I really don't know. When I sit down, every time I sit down, I surprise myself.
Yeah, I love that. Now, obviously, when you're writing so many books, you must have a huge backlog of ideas where you can like start to pick them out, so you can start to bring those books to life. What does that idea process look like for you when you're taking down your ideas?
Yeah. So this is something I've been doing for the last 15 years. So I capture ideas on my phone religiously. So I used Evernote for a long time. Now I use Microsoft OneNote and Apple Notes. But whenever I have an idea, I am religious about pulling out my phone and writing it down. If there's something I need to say, I'll use a voice memo. And if I'm inspired by something, I'll take a picture or I'll take a video, and it helps me capture it in the moment. And I throw everything into a notebook and I don't organize it. I just keep it as messy as possible. And then whenever I need a new idea for something, I've got literally thousands of notes over the last 15 years. And what I like to do is mix them together. So a note that I took yesterday might match or might mix with something that I took 7 years ago. And then all of a sudden you've got a fresh idea. And that is a great way, I believe, to one, make sure you're capturing things as you see them. And then two, having a well of things that you can go back to whenever you need a new idea for a book, but primarily whenever you have writer's block.
Yeah. One of the things you just mentioned as well was about taking voice notes. And I know that one of the strategies you use is to use dictation to try and get to your writing out as quickly as possible. What does that process of using dictation look like?
Yes. So dictation is right now my primary method of writing, in addition to writing for phone on my phone. So when I'm walking my dog, I've got a voice recorder Lately, I've been using my AirPods Pro because I'm able to do that. But got a voice recorder, and I usually use a lapel mic that goes on the collar of my shirt. I wear collared shirts almost every day, so I can get a lapel mic pretty high up close to my mouth, and then I just speak. I just speak the story. I pick up where I left off, either on my phone or on my desktop, and then when I get home, I use a tool called ProseWrite. And that is it's an AI software that basically transcribes your text or transcribes your audio into text. And then it also edits any typos, which for dictation, that's half the battle, is the cleanup. And so this does it relatively quickly. And then that gives me text that I can just bring back to my desktop or to my phone and then start editing or just start writing where I picked up off. I wrote a book called How to Dictate a Book that outlines my process on this, if anyone's interested.
Right. Okay. To me, it sounds like such an alien concept to just start walking around, like speaking to yourself. Do you ever get people questioning what you're doing?
Oh, you would not believe how many people stop me, especially when I'm walking my dog. At first, if I have my AirPods in, it's not as strange because people just think I'm on the phone. But then when they listen, they're like, wait a minute. What kind of conversation is he having? He's using quotation marks and commas. This guy is weird.
And the spaceman.
Exactly. But when I have my voice recorder, I have a little bit more hardware. So people are more likely to stop me. Like I've had neighbors say, hey, just out of curiosity, what are you doing? And I'll stop the recorder and I'll say, oh, hi, I'm an author. I'm dictating my book. And then they start asking me a bunch of questions, and yeah. It's a good conversation starter if you want to get to know your neighbors.
Yeah.
or if you want your neighbors or if you don't want to talk to your neighbors. Some of your neighbors probably might think you're kind of weird. Yeah. That could be beneficial too in some cases.
Yeah, definitely. You can almost wear a t-shirt that says, I'm dictating, leave me alone, or something like that.
I could do that. Yeah, I could do that. Although I don't mind people stopping me. I think it's kind of amusing. But I have a kind of a strange way of dictating. So one of the things that I say the word Pikachu a lot because that's I like to call it my dictation safe word. So that's when I make a mistake. So if I'm dictating and I'm saying, hey, Teddy, it's great to talk to you. And when I wanted to say it's great to meet you, I would say at the end of that sentence, Pikachu.
Right.
And then ironically, that's how I know that I made a mistake in that sentence. And then the AI software will automatically edit it out.
Oh, right. Okay. Wow.
So that's kind of a neat little trick that people can use if you're ever interested in doing that. But, or you could just do a find all and just delete every sentence that has Pikachu. It's a little trick you learn over the years. But, yeah, so I say that word a lot and people are like, why does this guy like Pokemon so much? But it's an easy word to say. And there's no other word that I would ever say in my writing that would sound like it. And so it's easy to pick out.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, a lot of people who are listening to this, they'll be thinking, oh, you've written so many books, you've obviously got this technique down, but I'm guessing you just started from somewhere where you just thought, I need to just start being more prolific with my writing. So is there any like main advice you'd give to people who are thinking, I'm not being as productive as I want, and I really want to get as many books out there as possible?
Yeah, it starts by making a choice. You can choose today that I want to be more productive and I want to write more books and be more prolific, whatever that looks like for you. It doesn't have to mean 100 books. It could mean writing one more book than you normally would per year. Okay. I think sometimes we start drinking the punch of productivity and it makes people go crazy and it can burn them out. I'm not telling people that you have to do what I do or that you have to do twice as what I do. I think productivity is whatever it looks like for you. And what it looks like for you, I think it should be healthy. I think you should be proud of it. And I think it should be fun. So if you can do all those things, whatever it looks like is all good. But you have to make a choice. It starts with the choice that I'm going to learn how to do this. I'm going to stick with it. And if it involves learning a new skill like dictation or writing on your phone, that you have to accept that you're not going to be perfect at it in the beginning and that you can learn how to do it and that there may be a better tool out there that you just haven't found yet. And it also means consistency. So showing up every day more often than you don't. And over time, you will find that the math adds up in your favor. And you'll wake up one day, like I have, and you've got over 100 books, or you've got whatever that number looks like that would make you proud.
Yeah. Yeah,
but you got to make
really
a choice.
advice.
Starts today.
Yeah, it's in your own hands, isn't it? Now, the other thing you do apart from writing is you've got your YouTube channel. So this, talking about being productive, like I've got my YouTube channel. I know how much work goes into making those videos look good. Can you tell us a bit about what your YouTube channel is about and why people should be listening to it?
Yeah, I have a channel. It's called Author Level Up, and I do regular videos on writing advice. I also do writing app tutorials and writing app reviews. And, I like writing apps. I like to call myself a writing app junkie. And I do these videos because I think that every writer has an inner Stephen King, Dean Koontz, Nora Roberts, insert the name of your favorite mega bestseller inside them. And we all just need help unlocking it. And so I do a lot of videos on motivation, inspiration, writing craft tips. And I just pass along what I'm learning. And I'm fortunate enough that people have found it useful. I'm almost at 50,000 subscribers at this point, and I'm counting. So a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Michael. It's been great to hear about your techniques for being as prolific as possible. The two books that we were talking about mostly today were the Be a Writing Machine, and also we touched on the How to Write Dictation. So if people want to find those books, where's the best place to go and get them?
Best place to find me is at authorlevelup.com. That's where you can find links to all the books we talked about on this interview, as well as my YouTube channel and all the other things I got going on the interwebs. And if you're adventurous enough to check out my fiction, you can check out my science fiction and fantasy at michaelleron.com.
Why don't you give us a bit of a preview about those fiction? What can people expect from those fiction books?
Yeah, I write science fiction and fantasy with bold underdogs. So characters that you would not normally think would be heroes. So I've written stories about narcissistic dragons as the main characters, anthropomorphic vegetable terrorists, rat shifters, underdogs that you want to root for, and a lot of fun world building as well.
And when can we expect your romances book to come out?
Hopefully later this year, but we'll see how the market research goes. But I want to get this idea, want to get it locked in and get it right.
Nice. Well, looking forward to reading that. It's been great chatting to you. Thank you so much for coming on. Really, all those tips are amazing. So thank you so much for sharing those with us, and we'll speak again soon.
Thanks, Teddy. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Publishing Performance Show. I really hope you found today's episode inspiring. I absolutely love chatting to authors, writers, and people in the publishing world. Now, just before we wrap up, I want to tell you about our Publishing Performance Starter Packs. These are curated episodes and collections organised by topic that makes it super easy to find the exact content you're looking for. So whether you're wanting to deep dive into marketing strategies, explore productivity techniques, or focus on any specific area of publishing, we've organised our episodes into targeted playlists just for you. And you can find these all at teddyagsmith.com. And also, whilst you're here, let me tell you about Publishing Performance. It's the #1 platform for authors who want to increase Amazon book sales but aren't really sure where to start. Now, this show is all about helping you to sell more books, and if you're looking to boost your publishing game and to maximise your book's potential on Amazon, then Publishing Performance is designed to help authors just like you to grow your readership and to reach a much wider audience. Now, I know that Amazon ads can be slightly complicated, which is why Publishing Performance is like having a personalised ad account manager to create your ad campaigns for you, to choose your best keywords and to make adjustments in real time and to optimise them over time to save you money and to make more sales. Now, if you're investing in ads, you really want to make sure your investment is being used effectively, and Publishing Performance does just that. It aims to make your budget go further, improve your organic rank, and target keywords more effectively. You can get started with Amazon ads for free for 30 days at publishingperformance.com, and there's a link in the show notes to get that free 30 days trial.